14th century munition grade war bow. It's got a faux composite prod on the front here, so it's actually built over a steel prod, but it looks pretty similar. Has the advantages of being a lot cheaper. Now this is slightly different to the normal goat's foot bows that I do. So it uses a spanning belt and a doubler pulley. Now if the pulley wasn't there and I just used the straight hooks, then when I try and span the bow, all of the load of the bow goes onto my waist. That limits, of course, how powerful a bow I can span, about 220 pounds in my case. Now this uses the doubler pulley. Now it has a fitting on the end of the rope here. That just goes onto a peg on the back of the stock here. And then you hook that on as normal, making sure it's central and secure. Now then, when I press down on this, half of the load of the bow goes onto this pin and half of the load of the bow goes onto my belt. I have to move twice as far to span the bow, but with half of the force required. It's basic pulley mechanics, and go have a look at Wikipedia if you need a better explanation. But what that means in reality is that I can span a far heavier bow than if it was just a pair of hooks with no pulleys. And this one is around about 370, 380 pounds in draw weight, and I can span it relatively easy. Now the first thing to note is that the nut here must be not in the open position that it would be with the goat's foot lever, but in the closed position. So there. So it's now fully engaged. Pop the foot into the stirrup, push down onto the nut, and there we are. Remove the gubbins, tuck it into your belt, gets it out of the way. Seat the bolt and shoot. So shooting a crossbow with a spanning belt, especially with the doubler system, relatively straightforward. Make sure your nut is set into the locked position. Spin it around. Pop the fitting on the end there. Get your claws onto the string, making sure it's central. And down. So we're in, nice and secure. Seat the bolt against the string nice and securely. So it's a relatively fast process. And again, remember, this is a sort of 370 pound bow, so you know, it's relatively straightforward. Relatively straightforward and not too hard to do. I don't know in honesty how high I could go with this system, probably about 450 pounds I would have thought. I think I did one a few years ago actually, at that kind of draw weight. So this is the last of them. And that's it.